Once upon a time, in a vibrant and bustling town, resided a man of profound respect and admiration, Mr. Robinson, a cherished school teacher. His wisdom, charm, and captivating presence endeared him to all, and his students held him in exceptionally high esteem. Among them was Bianca, a brilliant and beautiful 18-year-old, whose intellect and grace were the talk of the town. One quiet afternoon, Mr. Robinson sought Bianca out, confiding in her a deeply personal revelation. He was a single father raising 2 children. He spoke of the solitude and formidable challenges he faced, skillfully painting a picture of a dedicated, loving man burdened by circumstance. Bianca, deeply moved by his vulnerability, felt an overwhelming wave of sympathy, and their conversations began to drift into increasingly personal territory. Whenever his wife was away, visiting relatives in distant towns, Mr. Robinson would extend invitations to Bianca to come to his home, always under the guise of needing her assistance with his children. These visits, initially sporadic, soon grew in frequency, and inevitably a clandestine romantic relationship blossomed between them. Bianca, captivated and convinced, believed she had stumbled upon true love and was certain that Mr. Robinson was an unattached bachelor. However, Bianca's burgeoning closeness with Mr. Robinson did not escape the notice of one of her closest friends at school. Concerned by the intensity of their bond, her friend approached Bianca with a grave warning, urging her to end the relationship and cautioning her about potential repercussions. But Bianca, blinded by what she perceived as love, vehemently dismissed her friend's worries, insisting that Mr. Robinson was unmarried and their connection utterly genuine. The whispers, however, eventually reached Bianca's parents. Their fury was immediate and profound. They confronted her, their voices stern and unwavering, demanding that she cease all contact with Mr. Robinson at once. They reminded her of her youth, of the significant age gap between them, of his children, and of the paramount importance of her education. Yet Bianca stubbornly refused to heed their words, unwavering in her conviction that she loved him, and he her. Days bled into weeks, and Bianca's defiance only deepened. She stopped attending school, her parents' warnings falling on deaf ears. Her days were consumed by fervent daydreams of Mr. Robinson, a world where she believed they were destined to be together. Her parents watched in despair as their once diligent and devoted daughter drifted further and further from them, lost in her own delusion. Finally, their patience shattered. One evening, after yet another acrimonious argument, Bianca's father pointed towards the door, his voice laced with finality. "If you refuse to listen," he declared, "then leave this house. Go and stay with the man you have chosen over your family." Bianca's mother wept silently, her heart breaking, but her father remained resolute. "She has made her decision," he stated, his voice firm. "Let her go." Heartbroken, yet convinced she was acting on a righteous truth, Bianca snatched her bag and walked out of the house. The night was dark and cold, and she found herself with nowhere to go. She wandered the desolate streets, a chill seeping into her bones, fear clutching at her heart. She thought of her friends, but she knew they would only tell her to return home. With trembling hands, she dialed Mr. Robinson's number. "Hello?" his deep voice answered. "Mr. Robinson," Bianca choked out. "I have nowhere to go. My parents, they chased me out." A heavy silence stretched across the line. Then he sighed. "Come to my house. I will take care of you." Bianca's heart swelled with a wave of immense relief. She hurried through the dark streets to his house, knocking softly on the door. When he opened it, she offered a weak, hopeful smile, expecting a warm, comforting embrace. But before she could even step inside, a tall, elegant woman appeared from behind him. "Who is this?" the woman demanded, her sharp eyes scanning Bianca from head to toe. Bianca's stomach twisted into a knot. It was his wife. For a fleeting moment, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Mr. Robinson's face, but it was instantly replaced by a smooth, disarming chuckle. He casually draped an arm around Bianca's shoulder, his voice light and airy. "Oh, darling. This is Bianca. I've hired her as a nanny to help us with the children." Bianca's heart plummeted. A nanny? The word screamed in her mind, yet her lips remained sealed as she watched his wife's eyes narrow in suspicion. "A nanny, Raymond?" Veronica questioned, her arms folding tightly across her chest. "Why on earth do we need a nanny? I've never once complained about handling the house chores." Mr. Robinson chuckled, drawing her closer into his embrace. "I know, my love. You are absolutely incredible, but you work so hard, and I simply wanted to ease your burden a little. You deserve a break." Veronica hesitated, her gaze still flicking suspiciously to Bianca. "But why didn't you tell me first?" Mr. Robinson cupped her face, his voice dripping with syrupy sweetness. "Because I wanted it to be a surprise, my love. You do so much for us. I just wanted to show you how much I appreciate you." Bianca remained frozen, an unmoving statue, as she witnessed the man she loved weave an intricate web of lies, skillfully charming his wife with tender touches and honeyed words. It was in that moment a chilling realization dawned upon her, how incredibly smooth he was. He had employed the very same deceptive tactics with her, making her believe a fabricated reality. Yet despite the jarring truth, she swallowed her doubts. She had nowhere else to go. After a long, drawn-out pause, Veronica finally sighed, a hint of resignation in her voice. "All right, but she will sleep in the guest room." Mr. Robinson grinned, kissing her forehead. "Of course, my love." Veronica then turned to Bianca. "Come inside." Bianca nodded, stepping over the threshold, but her heart felt heavy with an unsettling unease. She had won. She was now living under the same roof as the man she loved. The following morning, Bianca awoke in the quiet guest room, her mind a tumultuous storm of confusion. The events of the previous night replayed relentlessly in her head. Mr. Robinson had lied. He was married. He had a wife, a beautiful, elegant woman named Veronica. He had utterly deceived her. As she stepped out of her room, she saw Mr. Robinson sitting calmly at the dining table, sipping his coffee. His wife had already left for work, and the house was quiet, save for the gentle clink of china. A burning anger ignited in Bianca's chest. She stormed towards him, her eyes flashing with rage. "Why did you lie to me?" she demanded. Mr. Robinson looked up, raising an eyebrow. "What are you talking about, baby?" he asked casually. Bianca's hands curled into fists. "You told me you were single. You said you were raising your kids alone. But your wife is here living in this house." Mr. Robinson sighed dramatically, leaning back in his chair. "Bianca, calm down. I didn't lie to you. I just didn't tell you everything." "That's the exact same thing as lying," Bianca snapped, her voice sharp with indignation. Mr. Robinson chuckled, then stood up, walking slowly towards her. He placed his hands gently on her shoulders, his voice smooth and calm. "Listen to me, sweetheart. You are special to me. My wife and I were already over. We just share a house for now. But in a few short months, I'll divorce her." Bianca frowned, her anger still simmering. Why haven't you divorced her already? Mr. Robinson sighed again, shaking his head. It's because of my children, Bianca. I didn't want to hurt them. But believe me, I don't love her anymore. She's grown old, boring, and she's certainly not as classy as you. She doesn't even take care of herself like you do. She's not as hot as you, Bianca. He cupped her face, his eyes brimming with a practiced, sorrowful gaze. I love you. You are the one I truly want. Bianca's heart hammered in her chest. His words were precisely what she longed to hear, yet deep down, a persistent thread of doubt still lingered. You promise? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Mr. Robinson smiled, his charm radiating. I swear. Just give me a little more time. Soon I'll be all yours. Bianca bit her lip, searching his eyes. He seemed so sincere, so utterly convinced of his own words. Slowly she nodded. Okay, I trust you. Mr. Robinson grinned, pulling her into his arms. That's my girl. A month later, Bianca began to notice subtle shifts in her body. Mornings were often accompanied by a wave of nausea, her appetite had noticeably increased, and a profound, unusual tiredness had settled over her. Deep down, she suspected what was happening, but it wasn't until she clutched a positive pregnancy test in her shaking hand that the undeniable reality hit her. She was pregnant. A tumultuous mix of excitement and fear surged through her. She didn't know how to feel, but one truth was blindingly clear. This child would forever bind her to Mr. Robinson. That evening, as his wife Veronica went out, Bianca rushed to find Mr. Robinson, her heart pounding with anticipation. She found him in the living room, casually scrolling through his phone. Baby, I have something to tell you, she said, her voice trembling with a blend of nervousness and eager anticipation. Mr. Robinson looked up, a gentle smile gracing his lips. What is it, my love? Bianca took a deep breath, then blurted out, I'm pregnant. For a moment, Mr. Robinson stared at her as if unable to process her words. Then, abruptly, his face lit up with unbridled joy. Are you serious? He asked, his voice incredulous. Bianca nodded, smiling widely. Yes, I'm sure. Mr. Robinson let out a joyful laugh, pulling her into a tight embrace. This is the best news ever. I'm going to be a father again. A wave of profound relief washed over Bianca. She had been terrified he wouldn't want the baby, but now she knew he was genuinely happy. Then, her smile faded, and she pulled back slightly. But there's something we need to talk about, she said, crossing her arms. Mr. Robinson raised an eyebrow. What is it, baby? Bianca's voice hardened, her gaze firm. I can't have my first child in this old house with your old cargo wife walking around like she owns the place. You need to get rid of her. Mr. Robinson sighed, a hint of weariness in his expression. Bianca, I told you to be patient. I have my plans. Bianca folded her arms tighter. I don't want patience. I want action. You said you don't love her. You said you would leave her. Now, I'm carrying your child, and I need a clean, quiet, less crowded environment to raise my baby. If you really love me, you will do something now. Mr. Robinson looked at her, then a faint smile touched his lips. Trust me, baby. I have everything under control. Just give me a little time. Bianca narrowed her eyes. You better not be lying to me again. Mr. Robinson kissed her forehead. I would never lie to you. You and our baby are my priority now. Bianca smiled, satisfied. She believed him. She had won. Soon, Veronica would be out and Bianca would take her rightful place as the woman of the house. A week later, Veronica remained blissfully unaware that her husband was meticulously planning to eject her from her own home. She went about her daily routine as usual, completely oblivious to the storm that was rapidly approaching. After noon, she decided to visit her close friend, Janet. They settled into Janet's cozy living room, sipping tea and catching up on the gentle rhythm of their lives. After a while, Janet leaned closer, her voice dropping to a low, conspiratorial whisper. "Veronica, do you not have eyes?" she asked, a hint of exasperation in her tone. Veronica frowned, puzzled. "What do you mean?" Janet scoffed softly. "I saw Bianca the other day, and I strongly suspect she is pregnant." Veronica's heart skipped a beat. "Pregnant?" she echoed, her hands tightening involuntarily around her teacup. Janet nodded, her eyes sharp and knowing. "Yes. And if you ask me, I think you need to start asking some serious questions. Your husband has been acting strangely lately, hasn't he?" Suddenly, Veronica felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. Her mind raced, replaying every instance Bianca had been in their home. Every time Mr. Robinson had insisted on hiring a nanny without consulting her, every defensive word he'd uttered when Bianca's presence was questioned. Could it be? "Are you saying—" Veronica began, her voice faltering, but Janet interrupted her, her gaze unwavering. "I'm saying you need to open your eyes. Something is profoundly wrong. That girl is carrying a baby, and I strongly suspect it's your husband's child." Veronica's fingers trembled. She stood up immediately, her breathing ragged. "I have to go," she muttered, a desperate urgency in her voice. Janet watched her with a look of deep pity. "Be careful, Veronica. If what I'm suspecting is true, you are in danger." But Veronica wasn't listening anymore. She grabbed her bag and rushed out of Janet's house, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. As she drove home, her mind raced with a terrifying clarity. Was Janet right? Was Bianca carrying Mr. Robinson's child? Had she been a fool all this time? The questions echoed, each one a hammer blow to her sense of security. That evening, when Mr. Robinson arrived home, he was in an exceptionally good mood. Bianca was pregnant, and soon he would have the picture-perfect family he always claimed to have wanted. He removed his shoes at the door, stepping into the living room, expecting to find Veronica in the kitchen as usual. Instead, she stood in the middle of the room, arms folded, her eyes burning with a cold, terrifying anger. "We need to talk," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Mr. Robinson sighed, already irritated by her presence. "What is it?" "Now, Veronica, I just got home." Veronica's chest rose and fell as she struggled to control the maelstrom of emotions raging within her. "I've been watching. I've been observing." Her voice was sharp, cutting through the silence. "And I have one question for you." Mr. Robinson frowned, feigning ignorance. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Veronica took a deep, shuddering breath and uttered the words that had been gnawing at her soul. "Is Bianca pregnant?" For a moment there was a deafening silence. Then, instead of denying it or even showing a shred of shame, Mr. Robinson let out a short, dismissive laugh. "Yes, she's pregnant for me." "And so what?" Veronica's body stiffened. It was true. Her worst fear had materialized. "So what?" she repeated, her voice shaking with barely suppressed fury. "You brought that girl into my home. You lied to me. You told me she was a nanny. But all along, you were sleeping with her." Mr. Robinson scoffed, leaning casually against a chair. "And what if I was? What can you possibly do about it?" His voice was laced with an unbearable arrogance, a blatant disregard for her pain. Tears burned in Veronica's eyes, hot and insistent, but she refused to let them fall. She would not give him the satisfaction. "You betrayed me, Raymond. After everything we've been through, you made a fool of me." Mr. Robinson clicked his tongue, a smirk playing on his lips. "Betrayed you? You're just angry because the truth is finally out. And since we are being honest, let me tell you one more thing." He straightened, his posture radiating a chilling confidence, looked her directly in the eye. "You couldn't give me children, Veronica. You failed me as a wife." Veronica gasped, her breath catching in her throat. "What did you just say?" Robinson stepped closer, his face cold and unyielding. "The 2 children we are raising, they are not biologically mine. We adopted them. But now Bianca is giving me what you couldn't. My own blood." Veronica's hands trembled with furious rage. "You are wicked, Robinson. You are heartless. Those children love you. They call you their father. That's their business." Robinson waved her off dismissively. "I'm done pretending. Bianca is young, beautiful, and classy. She's not like you. She makes me feel alive again. And whether you like it or not, I will marry her." Veronica felt her knees weaken, but she refused to let him see her break. Her lips curled into a sneer of utter disgust. "You are a pathetic excuse for a man, a shameless, disgusting old fool," she spat. Robinson merely smiled, utterly unfazed. "Insult me all you want. It won't change a thing. Bianca is carrying my child, and you are no longer needed in this house." Veronica stared at him, breathing heavily. Then she took a deep, steadying breath and straightened her shoulders, a new resolve hardening her gaze. "You know what, Robinson? You can have Bianca. You can have your baby. But you will no longer have, me." Robinson narrowed his eyes, a flicker of surprise in their depths. "What do you mean?" Veronica took off her wedding ring, the symbol of their shattered vows, and threw it at him. It clattered to the floor, a stark sound in the silent room. "I want a divorce." Her voice was cold, steady, and unwavering. "I am leaving you." For the first time, Robinson looked genuinely shocked. He had expected her to cry, to beg, to fight for their marriage. Instead, she was walking away. She turned around and marched upstairs, her resolve unwavering. She grabbed her suitcase and began furiously packing her clothes. Enough was truly enough. She refused to stay with a man who held no respect for her. Mr. Robinson stood at the doorway, watching her. "You're being dramatic, Veronica." She let out a bitter, humorless laugh. "Dramatic? You betrayed me. You insulted me. And now you're throwing me away like trash, and you think I'm being dramatic." She zipped up her suitcase and gripped the handle firmly. "I deserve better." With that, she walked past him, out of the bedroom, down the stairs, and straight out the front door. Robinson smiled faintly as he watched her leave. "Good riddance," he muttered to himself. "Now I can finally be with Bianca in peace." 2 days later, Bianca sat on the couch, gently rubbing her small, burgeoning baby bump. The initial rush of excitement at being pregnant had begun to fade, and a stark new reality was setting in. She had dropped out of school, abandoned her parents' home, and was now living with Mr. Robinson. But something didn't feel right. She looked at him as he sat across from her, absorbed in scrolling through his phone. "Baby?" she said softly. Mr. Robinson glanced up. "Yes, my love?" Bianca hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "I want to go back to school." Mr. Robinson's smile instantly vanished. He placed his phone down and frowned. "Go back to school? Why?" Bianca shifted uncomfortably. "Because I don't want to just stay at home doing nothing. I want to finish my education." Mr. Robinson leaned forward, his expression firm. "Bianca, you are carrying my child. You should focus on being a full-time housewife now." Bianca's heart sank. "But no buts," he cut her off, his voice carrying an undeniable finality. "Look, I'm not complaining. I provide everything you need. Do you lack anything?" Bianca stayed silent, her gaze fixed on the floor. Mr. Robinson sighed and continued. "I have money, Bianca. Aside from being a teacher, I have businesses. You don't need school. I can take care of you and our baby. Just relax and enjoy life." Bianca felt her stomach twist. She had thought he would support her decision, but instead, he was shutting her down completely. "But I don't want to just sit at home doing nothing," she tried again, her voice pleading. "I want to be more than just your wife." Mr. Robinson chuckled and stood up, dismissing her words with a wave of his hand. "That's nonsense, Bianca. You're already lucky to have me. Stop worrying about school and focus on our future together." Bianca bit her lip, holding back the rising tide of frustration. She had always envisioned finishing school, securing a good job, and achieving independence. Now it felt as though she had inadvertently trapped herself in a life she wasn't ready for. She forced a smile and nodded weakly. "Okay." 2 weeks passed, and in Mr. Robinson's carefully constructed world, everything seemed perfectly normal. He had Bianca all to himself. She was carrying his child, and Veronica was out of the picture. Or so he thought. That afternoon, as he was preparing to leave for work, his phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. He hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Hello?" he said. "Mr. Robinson?" A deep, professional voice came through the phone. "Yes. Who is this?" "I'm your wife's lawyer. She has filed for divorce, and I have the papers here. You will need to review and sign them soon." Mr. Robinson felt his blood pressure surge instantly. "Divorce?" he repeated, as if the word itself was a foreign, incomprehensible concept. "Yes, sir. And I must inform you, according to the agreement, you will be required to hand over your house to Mrs. Veronica Robinson, since you both have children together and she will have custody." Mr. Robinson almost dropped his phone. His heart hammered in his chest with a frantic rhythm. "What nonsense are you talking about?" he barked, his voice laced with disbelief and fury. "That is my house. I built that house with my sweat. She has no right to take it from me." The lawyer remained calm, utterly unfazed by his outburst. "Sir, you and your wife lived in that house together as a family. The law protects her and the children. You will also be required to provide financial support for the children until they turn 18. Mr. Robinson's head spun. He gritted his teeth, his jaw tight. "Never! That's the only house I have. She cannot take everything I worked for and just leave." Then he let out a short, bitter laugh, a sound devoid of humor. "I thought she was joking when she said she would divorce me. I thought she was just angry and trying to scare me. I never knew she would actually go through with it." The lawyer sighed, a hint of weariness in his voice. "Sir, I understand your frustration, but you need to be prepared. If you refuse to sign, this could get very messy in court, and you might lose even more than just the house." Mr. Robinson was shaking with a barely controlled rage. He had assumed Veronica would eventually come back, that she would cry and beg to return to him. He had never in his wildest dreams imagined she would actually take legal action against him, and so swiftly. "I will not let her take what belongs to me," he muttered under his breath, a chilling resolve in his tone. "Over my dead body." The lawyer spoke again, his voice firm. "Sir, I suggest you get your own lawyer as soon as possible. We will be sending the documents to you shortly. Good day." The call ended, leaving Mr. Robinson boiling with an incandescent rage. He threw his phone onto the couch and ran his hands through his hair, a grimace distorting his features. "This woman thinks she can play smart with me. She will regret this." Just then, Bianca walked into the living room. "What's wrong, baby?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. Mr. Robinson clenched his fists. "That old hag is trying to take my house from me," Bianca gasped. "What? But where will we live?" "Exactly," Robinson snapped, his eyes flashing with fury. "I will not let her win. She thinks she can ruin my life? Never. I will fight her with everything I have." Bianca nodded, folding her arms. "She's just jealous because I'm the one having your baby now." Mr. Robinson exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "I need to think. I will not let her take what belongs to me. She wants war. She will get it." But deep inside, a cold fear settled in his stomach. If Veronica won this case, he would lose everything. Meanwhile, Veronica sat in Janet's living room, sipping her tea with a profound look of relief on her face. She leaned back against the couch and let out a deep, contented sigh. "Janet, I can't wait to finally be free," she said, a hint of bitterness mingling with her relief. "That man is so stupid. I can't believe I wasted all these years with him." Janet smiled sympathetically. "At least you're getting out now. Some women stay trapped forever." Veronica scoffed. "The funniest part is I never even noticed anything between him and that small, wayward, mannerless girl, Bianca. I mean, her parents failed her woefully." Janet nodded in agreement. "A girl with proper home training would never do what she did. She threw away her future for a useless man." Veronica laughed, a sound devoid of mirth. "Let them enjoy their mess. I just want to finalize this divorce and move on with my life." She felt lighter than she had in years. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't stressed about her husband's lies, his arrogance, or his manipulations. Soon she would be completely done with him. 2 days later, Mr. Robinson sat in his car, deep in troubled thought. He had barely slept since his lawyer's call. The harsh reality of potentially losing his house, his money, and even his carefully constructed reputation was beginning to sink in. He had gravely underestimated Veronica. He had thought she would crawl back to him, beg for forgiveness, but instead, she had hit him where it hurt the most. Now, he had no choice. If he wanted to win, he had to play smart. He took a deep breath, got out of the car, and walked up to the house where Veronica was temporarily staying. He knocked on the door, and when she opened it, she was utterly shocked to see him standing there. "What do you want, Robinson?" she asked coldly, folding her arms across her chest. Mr. Robinson let out a deep, theatrical sigh, and then, suddenly, he dropped to his knees. Tears welled in his eyes as he clasped his hands together, looking up at her like a broken, remorseful man. "Veronica, please! I made a terrible mistake. I don't know what came over me. I miss you. I miss our family. I don't want this divorce. Please!" Forgive me." Veronica frowned, her expression a mix of bewilderment and suspicion. "Robinson, stand up! What nonsense is this?" But he didn't move. Instead, he began to cry, loud, wrenching sobs. "I was a fool, Veronica. I was blind. Bianca meant nothing to me. It was just a stupid mistake. Please don't leave me. I can't live without you." Veronica stared at him, her gaze unwavering. Completely shocked. She had never seen this man cry before. Never. She stepped back, suddenly feeling unsure. "So, you're saying it's, over between you and Bianca?" Mr. Robinson quickly nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Yes! I swear, I will chase her away. Just give me one more chance, please. I love you, Veronica. I can't lose you." Veronica looked into his eyes, and for the first time in weeks, she saw a flicker of the man she once loved. The man who had been her husband, her partner, the father of their children. Maybe, just maybe, he had truly learned his lesson. She took a deep breath. "Fine, but if I come back, you must chase Bianca away. I don't want to see her anywhere near our home." Mr. Robinson wiped his fake tears and nodded eagerly. "Consider it done. She means nothing to me. I just want my wife back." Veronica sighed, still unsure, but deep down she wanted to believe him. What she didn't know was that she was falling right into his meticulously laid trap. A day later, Mr. Robinson went to Veronica's temporary residence and told her he was taking her out to celebrate. He claimed Bianca was already on her way to her parents' house and, furthermore, that he had just found out he wasn't responsible for her pregnancy. Veronica was overjoyed. Her husband was finally hers again. She told him she would call her lawyer the next day to cancel the divorce. Since everything was back to normal, nobody knew about their impromptu outing. Mr. Robinson took the car keys and told her he had the perfect place for them to go. Veronica, still buzzing with excitement, didn't suspect a thing. She got into the car, chatting away about how relieved she was that Bianca was finally gone. Robinson nodded, pretending to listen, but his mind was already fixed on the dark deed he was about to commit. He drove for a long, unsettling time, taking a route Veronica didn't recognize. The roads grew narrower, surrounded by thick, oppressive trees. The place was completely hidden, far from any houses or people. "Robinson, where exactly are we going?" she asked, her eyes scanning the desolate surroundings with growing unease. "It's, surprise, just relax," he said, his voice deceptively calm. "This place is too hidden. I don't like this. Turn around and take me home," she demanded, her voice laced with growing apprehension. "We're almost there. Stop worrying," he said, gripping the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles white. Veronica's stomach twisted. Something felt terribly wrong. She reached for her phone, but before she could dial a number, Robinson slammed on the brakes. The sudden violent stop jolted her forward. "What's wrong with you?" she snapped, her fear now turning into anger. Robinson didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a gun. Veronica's eyes widened in horror, the blood draining from her face. "Robinson, what are you doing?" He cocked the gun, the chilling click echoing in the confined space, and pointed it directly at her. "I'm sorry, Veronica, but you should have never left me." Tears welled in her eyes, hot and sudden. "Please, Raymond, we can fix this. We can go home. Pretend none of this happened. You think I'll let you take my house, my money? You think you can just walk away and leave me with nothing?" His voice was cold, devoid of any emotion. "You lied. Bianca never left, did she? Robinson smirked, a cruel, triumphant glint in his eyes. You were always smart, Veronica, but not smart enough. Bang! The gunshot echoed, shattering the silence of the empty night. Veronica's body slumped in the seat. She didn't even get the chance to scream. Robinson wasted no time. He got out of the car, dragged her lifeless body out, and began digging. The area was so hidden, so remote, no one would ever know, would ever find her. After an hour of arduous digging, he covered the grave with dirt, wiped his hands clean, and stared at the spot one last time. Goodbye, Veronica. You should have never challenged me. He got back in the car and drove home as if nothing had happened. When he entered the house, Bianca was sitting on the couch, engrossed in her meal. She looked up and smiled, completely unaware of the horrific deed that had just transpired. She didn't ask any questions about his outing with Veronica. He didn't mention it. He acted normal, as if it were just any other evening. He took off his jacket, sat down, and picked up his phone, falling back into his usual routine. Bianca continued eating, not suspecting a thing. The house was quiet. No one knew what had taken place that night. Veronica was gone, and life moved on, as if she had never existed. A week later, Bianca woke up with sharp, excruciating pains in her stomach. She clutched her belly, a terrifying premonition gripping her. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she tried to sit up, but the pain was unbearable. She called out for Mr. Robinson, but he had already left for work. By afternoon, she started bleeding heavily. Panic set in as she realized what was happening. She tried to remain calm, but the pain intensified relentlessly. By the time Mr. Robinson got home that evening, Bianca was curled up in bed, weak and deathly pale. "I lost the baby," she whispered, her voice barely audible, a fragile whisper of broken hope. Mr. Robinson stood by the door, his face unreadable, his expression oddly devoid of emotion. "It's okay," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder, a gesture that felt oddly detached. "Everything happens for a reason." Bianca expected him to show more emotion, more grief, but he simply walked into the bathroom, washed his hands, and changed his clothes, as if nothing significant had occurred. She stared at him, feeling something cold and unsettling settle in her chest. Something about him felt profoundly off. Days passed, and Bianca started feeling an increasingly profound unease in the house. It began subtly. Fleeting shadows moving in the corner of her eye, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper when she was alone, the chilling sensation of someone watching her from unseen vantage points. At first, she brushed it off, attributing it to her mind playing tricks on her, a side effect of the recent trauma. But soon, it became undeniably worse. One night, while Mr. Robinson was out, Bianca was in the kitchen when she distinctly heard footsteps directly behind her. She turned quickly, her heart pounding, but no one was there. The hairs on her arm stood on end. She grabbed a glass of water, trying desperately to calm her racing pulse, but as she turned to leave the kitchen, she saw something that made her drop the glass with a shattering crash. A woman stood at the end of the hallway, her eyes dark and hollow, her dress stained with an ominous, spreading red. Bianca gasped, her breath caught in her throat, a scream trapped within her. She blinked, and just like that, the woman was gone, vanished into thin air. Her hands shook uncontrollably as she fumbled for her phone and dialed Mr. Robinson. "I keep seeing something in this house," she said, her voice trembling, ragged with fear. "There's someone here." Mr. Robinson sighed on the other end, his voice dismissive. Bianca, it's nothing. Your mind is playing tricks on you. I know what I saw, she insisted, her voice rising. Maybe it's just stress from losing the baby. Just relax. Get some rest. Bianca wanted to argue, to scream the truth, but she could tell he wasn't taking her seriously, not truly listening. She hung up and hugged herself, feeling colder than she ever had before. She knew what she saw, and it was terrifyingly real. Deep down, she had a terrible feeling that this was just the beginning. Janet had been worried for months. Veronica's sudden disappearance didn't sit right with her. She had known Veronica for years, and there was no way she would just vanish without a trace. Janet had tried calling her, visiting her house, and even asking around, but there was no sign of her. Deep inside, Janet suspected Mr. Robinson. She had never liked him from the moment Veronica married him. Janet had felt something was profoundly off about him. He was too smooth, too controlling, too full of himself. Now, with Veronica missing, her instincts screamed that he had something to do with it. She went to the police and reported her concerns, but there was a problem. The officer in charge was an old friend of Mr. Robinson. There's no evidence that anything happened, the officer said, leaning back in his chair, a dismissive tone in his voice. For all we know, she left on her own. Janet clenched her fists, her frustration mounting. Veronica would never leave without telling anyone. Something is wrong, the officer sighed, a show of feigned patience. Look, I know Robinson personally. He's a good man. You can't just throw around accusations without proof. If she doesn't turn up in a few weeks, then maybe we'll look into it. But for now, there's nothing we can do. Janet left the station, fuming. She knew something wasn't right, but there was nothing she could do. Mr. Robinson was a free man. 4 months passed. Bianca got pregnant again. This time she was meticulous. She followed every instruction from the doctor, ate well, and rested. She was determined, utterly determined, to have this baby. Then, one evening, the same sharp, agonizing pains returned. By morning, she had lost the baby. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring blankly into nothingness. It had happened again. Another loss, another dream shattered. Mr. Robinson walked into the room, arms crossed, his expression unyielding. I think your parents are responsible for this, he said, his voice flat. Bianca blinked, her mind reeling. What? They never supported our relationship. I wouldn't be surprised if they cursed you. They don't want you to have my child. Bianca felt something snap inside her. She stood up, her eyes blazing with a raw, unadulterated fury. You are a senseless, old, useless man! Mr. Robinson's face darkened. Bianca, don't push me! I regret ever knowing you. I regret everything, she screamed, tears streaming down her face. You ruined my life. What have I gained from being with you? Nothing! Mr. Robinson grabbed his keys and stormed out of the house. The door slammed shut behind him, and an oppressive silence filled the room. Bianca sank back down, hugging herself, shivering. The air felt cold, as if something unseen was watching her. She tried to shake off the feeling, but deep inside, she knew something wasn't right. That night she woke up suddenly. The room was quiet, but a profound sense of wrongness permeated the air. She looked around, her heart pounding against her ribs. Then she saw it. A dark figure stood in the corner, watching her. The same ghostly woman she had seen before. Her breath caught in her throat, her whole body went numb with fear. She grabbed her phone and quickly called her old friend. The moment the call connected, she burst into desperate tears. "Please help me!" she cried, her voice ragged. "I keep seeing something in this house. There's something here." Her friend's voice on the other end was cold, distant. "Bianca, I don't know why you're calling me. You caused all of this yourself. Please, just listen," Bianca sobbed, her voice breaking. "I warned you, Bianca. Your parents warned you too. But you thought you were smarter than everyone. Now look at your life. A small girl like you, throwing your future away for an old man. Please, don't hang up. I don't know what to do." Her friend sighed, a sound of utter exasperation. "Carry your problem to your sugar daddy and leave me alone. I don't have time for your nonsense." The call ended abruptly. Bianca stared at her phone, shaking. The room felt colder, the silence heavier. Slowly, she turned her head back to the corner. The ghost was still there, and this time, it was moving toward her. Bianca's entire body froze as she watched the dark figure glide closer. She wanted to scream, but her throat felt impossibly tight. The air in the room turned ice cold, and she could hear her own heartbeat pounding a frantic rhythm in her ears. The figure had no clear face, just a dark, shifting shadow, taller than any human. Bianca could feel its malevolent presence watching her, even though she couldn't discern its eyes. She tried to move, to run, but her body wouldn't obey, locked in a paralysis of terror. The figure stepped forward, and the moment it did, the lights flickered violently. A chilling whisper filled the air, a sound so low and distant that she couldn't understand the words, yet it resonated with an ancient, unbearable sorrow. Bianca's breath hitched, a choked gasp escaping her lips. Please, what do you want?" she whispered, her voice barely a tremor. The whispering stopped. A cold, sudden gust of wind rushed through the room, and the figure disappeared. The silence that followed was even worse, a heavy, oppressive void. Bianca felt the weight of something pressing down on her chest. She gasped for air and stumbled out of bed, grabbing her phone. Her hands trembled violently as she tried to call Mr. Robinson. No answer. She called again. Nothing. Tears streamed down her face as she scrambled for the light switch, flipping on every single light in the house. She needed to leave, to escape. She grabbed her purse and rushed to the front door, her fingers fumbling desperately with the lock. The door wouldn't open. She yanked at the handle, but it was stuck fast. The windows slammed shut, one after another, echoing through the house. The television in the living room turned on by itself, static, filling the screen with a piercing hiss. Then a whisper, closer this time, distinct and chilling. "You shouldn't be here." Bianca's body went utterly cold, her breath coming in short, ragged gasps. She turned her head slowly toward the hallway. The shadow stood there again, darker, more defined. Bianca let out a terrified, guttural scream and collapsed to the floor, her consciousness fading into the terrifying darkness. Hours later, Mr. Robinson arrived home late at night. He was in a good mood, having spent hours drinking and playing cards with friends. He stepped inside and frowned. The house was too quiet. "Bianca?" he called out, but there was no answer. He walked toward the bedroom, but something made him stop. The front door was wide open, letting in the cold night air. A strange chill ran down his spine. Bianca never left the door open. Stepping cautiously into the living room, his heart nearly stopped. Bianca was lying on the floor, unconscious. He rushed to her, shaking her gently. "Bianca! Bianca, wake up!" She gasped weakly, her eyes fluttering open. When she saw him, she clutched his shirt, her hands freezing cold. "There's something here," she whispered, her voice raspy with terror. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his face twisting in confusion, a hint of impatience already creeping into his tone. She swallowed hard, her lips trembling. "A shadow. A woman. She was here." Dark figure. "I keep seeing it when you are not around. It locked me inside the house. It spoke to me." Mr. Robinson pulled away from her grip, his expression hardening. "You're just imagining things." Bianca shook her head, fresh tears spilling down her face. "I know what I saw. I'm not crazy." He stood up, rubbing his temples, clearly exasperated. "You need rest. You're stressed. There are no ghosts, Bianca. It's all in your head." Bianca sat up, her body still trembling. "Then why does it keep coming back whenever you're gone?" Mr. Robinson said nothing. His jaw tightened as he turned away. Bianca knew one thing with chilling certainty. She wasn't safe in this house. And deep down, Mr. Robinson knew it too. Bianca couldn't take it anymore. She felt trapped in that house, haunted by something she couldn't explain. She needed help, and there was only one place she could think of: her mother's shop. She rushed there, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The moment she stepped inside, her mother turned and froze. "Bianca?" Her mother's eyes widened in shock. Bianca fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Mama, please help me," she begged, her voice choked with sobs. Her mother folded her arms, her expression a mixture of hurt and anger. "So, now you know where to find me after everything you did?" "Mama, please. I know I messed up. I know I should have listened. But I need your help. I think Mr. Robinson is responsible for his wife's disappearance, and I've been seeing something in that house. A ghost, Mama. It's not normal." Her mother scoffed, a bitter sound. "Oh, now you can think. Now you have sense? But when we warned you, you insulted us, you disgraced us. You chose that foolish old man over your own family. See where your stubbornness has landed you." Bianca sobbed, clutching her mother's dress. "Mama, please. I have nowhere else to go. I regret everything." Her mother sighed, looking at her closely for the first time in months. Bianca looked terrible, thin, weak, with dark circles under her eyes. She didn't look like the confident, happy girl she once was. Something had profoundly broken her. Out of a mother's undeniable love, she pulled Bianca up and hugged her tightly. "You have suffered enough," she whispered. "But this matter is not only in my hands. Your father was so angry when you left school and followed that man. I will have to talk to him first." Bianca nodded, still crying, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. That night, her mother went home and sat with her husband. She told him everything: how Bianca was suffering, how she regretted everything, how she was begging to come back home. But her father was still angry. "So, now she knows the meaning of pain," he said, shaking his head, his voice laced with resentment. "Didn't we warn her? Didn't we tell her this would happen?" His wife pleaded with him. "She has learned her lesson. Look at what she has become. She is our daughter, and she needs us." He sighed heavily, a long, weary exhalation, and finally said, "Fine, she can come back, but on one condition. She must go back to school and cut all ties with that foolish man." The next morning, Bianca's mother called her. "Your father has agreed, but you must return to school and never speak to Robinson again." Bianca didn't even hesitate. Yes, Mama. I will do anything. I just want to leave that house. Bianca took a deep breath as she packed the last of her belongings, clothes into her bag. Her hands trembled slightly, but she pushed away the fear. She had made up her mind. She was leaving this house today. She stepped out of the bedroom and found Mr. Robinson sitting in the living room scrolling through his phone as if nothing were amiss. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice firm, resolute. He looked up at her with a smile, a practiced charm in his eyes. "What is it, my love?" "I'm leaving," Bianca said, standing tall, her voice unwavering. "I want to focus on my life and go back to school." Mr. Robinson's smile instantly disappeared, his eyes darkening to a cold, hard stare. "You are joking, right?" "No. I am serious. I'm done. I have realized my mistake. You brainwashed me. You manipulated me. You are my father's age. I regret ever knowing you." Mr. Robinson stood up slowly, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. "Bianca, do not say things you don't mean." "I mean every word," she shouted, her voice laced with fury. "I must leave this house, and I know the truth, Robinson. I know you are responsible for your wife's disappearance." His expression turned deadly, a terrifying shift. "Watch your mouth, Bianca." "You will be exposed," she continued, her voice shaking but strong. "I will tell the world what you did. You ended your wife's life. You are a foolish, disgusting man." Mr. Robinson's face twisted with pure, unadulterated rage. His chest rose and fell heavily as he stared at her with burning hatred. Then, in a low, menacing voice, he said, "Yes, I did it. I ended Veronica's life. And so what?" Bianca took a step back, a fresh wave of paralyzing fear creeping into her bones. Mr. Robinson let out a wicked, chilling laugh. "What can you do about it, you little spoiled child of a nobody? You will vanish the same way stupid Veronica did." Bianca's blood ran cold. "You're a monster," she whispered, the words barely escaping her lips. He slammed his fist on the table, making her flinch violently. "Oh, women! You all are so foolish, especially you small girls of nowadays. You think the world revolves around you? You think you can just walk in and out of my life as you please? Let me tell you something, Bianca. You belong to me." Bianca's heart pounded a desperate rhythm as she turned to run, but he was faster. He grabbed her by the arm and dragged her toward the bedroom. She kicked and screamed, trying to break free. "Let me go! You can't do this!" But Mr. Robinson was too strong. He shoved her into the room and slammed the door shut before she could even reach for it. She heard the ominous click of the lock. He had locked her in. She hammered on the door. "Let me out!" Mr. Robinson stood outside, a chilling chuckle echoing through the door. "You are mine, Bianca. You will stay in this house until I decide what to do with you." She heard his footsteps moving away, receding down the hall. Then, after a few seconds, she heard another sound, her phone ringing. Her eyes widened in a sudden realization. Her phone! She searched frantically around the room, but then it hit her. He had taken it. Tears filled her eyes as she sank to the floor, the chilling reality sinking in. She was trapped. The next day, Bianca's parents had been trying to call her, but her phone wasn't connecting. Her mother dialed her number again and again, pacing back and forth in the living room, a knot of worry tightening in her stomach. "I don't like this," she muttered, gripping her phone tightly. "Something is wrong." Her husband, sitting calmly on the couch with his arms crossed, scoffed dismissively. You see what I told you? This girl can never change. I think she has gone back to that foolish man. She's not coming home. His wife turned to him, her eyes filled with worry. No, I don't believe that. She was ready to leave him. She packed her bags. She was supposed to come home today. Her husband shook his head, clearly fed up. Woman, you and that daughter of yours will not kill me. That girl is useless. She doesn't like school, she doesn't have sense, and she doesn't listen. I don't even think I'm the father of that foolish daughter of yours. His wife gasped. Don't you ever say that again. Then stop disturbing me with her name, he barked. She made her choice. She can rot with that stupid man for all I care. But Bianca's mother refused to accept that. Deep inside, she felt something was terribly wrong. Bianca had sounded desperate on the phone the night before. She wanted to come home. So why would she suddenly disappear? She clenched her fists. I am not going to sit here and do nothing. Her husband waved her off. Do whatever you like, but don't call that girl's name in this house again. Meanwhile, inside the locked room, Bianca sat on the cold floor, her body shaking with fear. She had never prayed so hard in her life. She went on her knees, tears rolling down her face. Father, Lord, please. I know I have been stubborn. I disobeyed my parents. I made the worst mistake of my life. But please don't let me die here. Give me one last chance. I promise. I will never disobey my parents again. I will change. Please, Lord. I don't want to end up like Robinson's wife, she cried, clapping her hands, begging with everything inside her. God, you are the only one who can save me now. Please, if you help me escape, I will never go back to my foolish ways. Just give me one chance. As she continued praying, suddenly she heard a creaking sound. She stopped, holding her breath. The door unlocked on its own. Bianca's heart nearly stopped. She stared at it in disbelief, her mind racing. Was it the wind? Did Robinson forget to lock it properly? Or did God really hear her prayers? She had no time to think. She jumped to her feet and ran. She pushed the door open and bolted down the hallway, her heart pounding in her chest. She expected to hear Robinson's voice yelling behind her, but the house was silent. She ran to the front door, pulled it open, and sprinted outside. She didn't stop. She didn't look back. She ran to the main road and waved down a taxi with all her strength. The driver, seeing the raw panic on her face, stopped immediately. The driver didn't ask questions. He saw the desperation in her eyes and sped off. When the taxi stopped in front of her mother's shop, Bianca burst out of the car and ran inside. Her mother, who was already drowning in worry, turned around and gasped. Bianca! Bianca threw herself into her mother's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Mama! He locked me up! I saw things! I prayed, and somehow the door opened! Mama! Mr. Robinson is a monster! Her mother held her tightly, her heart breaking at the sight of her daughter. My child, what happened? Bianca wiped her tears and told her everything. How Robinson refused to let her go, how he had confessed to ending his wife's life, admitted to ending his wife's life, how he locked her up and told her she would vanish the same way Veronica did. Her mother's body stiffened with a cold, righteous rage. She grabbed Bianca's hand firmly. We are going to the police. This evil man must not go free. They stormed into the police station, and Bianca's mother went straight to the officer in charge, her voice ringing with fury. My daughter was kidnapped and locked up by that wicked man Robinson, she shouted. You must arrest him immediately. The officers turned to Bianca, who was still shaking with fear. her eyes wide and haunted. One of them gently asked, "Is this true?" Bianca nodded quickly, her voice a small, shaky whisper. "Yes. He locked me in his house. He said I was his, and that I would never leave." The officers exchanged glances. Even though Robinson had connections, this was serious. Locking up a young girl against her will was a clear crime. Immediately, they dispatched officers to arrest Mr. Robinson. When they arrived at his house, he was sitting calmly on the couch, sipping coffee, as if nothing had happened, as if the world revolved around his undisturbed peace. The moment he saw the officers, his smug expression vanished, replaced by a scowl. "What is the meaning of this?" he asked, standing up, a hint of arrogance in his voice. "You are under arrest for kidnapping and illegally detaining Miss Bianca," one of the officers stated, his voice firm. Robinson laughed, a dismissive, arrogant sound. "Kidnapping? That foolish girl is my woman. She belongs to me." The officers didn't argue. They grabbed him and placed him in handcuffs. "Do you know who I am?" he shouted, struggling against their grip. "I have friends in high places. You will all lose your jobs." But the officers didn't care. They dragged him out of the house and took him straight to the station. At the station, Robinson sat on the bench, his hands still cuffed, his demeanor surprisingly calm, as if he still believed he would walk free, that his connections would somehow save him. Then, suddenly, something invisible struck him on the head. The officers turned, confused, scanning the empty air. Nothing was there. Robinson's eyes widened in shock, and he grabbed his head, shaking violently, his face contorted in fear. "Who is here?" he shouted, his voice cracking. "What do you want from me?" Bianca and her mother watched in fear as he started talking to himself, his words tumbling out, frantic and disjointed. "I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident. She was threatening me. I had no choice." The officers leaned forward, their expressions hardening. "What are you talking about?" Robinson's hands trembled uncontrollably. "Veronica, I ended her life. I buried her in a hidden place." There was complete, stunned silence in the station. One of the officers, acting on instinct, grabbed his collar. "Where? Tell us where." Robinson's mouth opened, but no words came out. It was as if something was choking him. He gasped for air, his eyes rolling back, a terrifying, vacant look in them. "She won't leave me alone. She's here. She's in this room," Bianca screamed as the lights in the station flickered erratically. The officers jumped, back in alarm as Robinson fell to his knees, crying like a baby, his composure utterly shattered. One officer quickly grabbed his phone and called for a forensic team to search the area Robinson had described, frantically relaying the confession. Hours later, the chilling truth was confirmed. Veronica's body was found buried in a shallow grave. Mr. Robinson was taken to court immediately. The judge looked disgusted as the overwhelming evidence was presented. Bianca testified, her voice clear and strong despite her past trauma. The officers testified, detailing his erratic confession. Even Robinson's own recorded confession was played for the court. He tried to beg, claiming it was an accident, a moment of madness. But nobody believed him. "You are a cold-hearted man who took the life of your wife and held an innocent girl captive," the judge stated, his voice resonating with grave condemnation. "You showed no remorse. You threatened to take another life. This court finds you guilty." The sentence was announced: life imprisonment. As Robinson was dragged away, his face contorted with pure, unadulterated hatred, he turned to Bianca. "You ruined me!" he shouted, his voice a guttural roar. "You destroyed my life!" Bianca held her mother's hand tightly, her voice a firm whisper. "No! You destroyed yourself!" The doors of the courtroom closed behind him, and just like that, he was gone. His monstrous presence removed from their lives. Weeks later, Bianca sat in her parents' living room, staring out the window, a profound sense of peace settling over her. She was free. Her mother placed a warm bowl of food in front of her. "Eat, my child. You need your strength." Bianca smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile. "Thank you, Mama." Her father, who had been silent for days, finally spoke, his voice gentle but firm. "You are my daughter. You made a mistake, but you have learned your lesson. Now focus on your future." Bianca nodded, her gaze fixed on him, filled with a renewed determination. "I will, Papa. I will never disappoint you again." Her parents smiled, their faces radiating love and forgiveness. And for the first time in a long time, Bianca felt a deep, abiding peace. She had been given a second chance, a true opportunity to rebuild her life, and this time she wouldn't waste it.